Welcome back to We Called It. After a terrible week for me, Connor, and Anthony, I kicked those two bozos out and brought Dr. Ken back here to save the day and help us win our picks. I think we were all like under 500. Very embarrassing. Ken, thank you for coming in to save us
You
all.
needed me back. I know. I get it. You're welcome.
We gave you a 1 week benching after you had a bad week, but you seem fresh and ready to go. We're turning into the Browns QB situation. Who does just kicking out the person that does really bad for someone who's going to do equally as poor. Anyways,
Dude, I'm going to go to the Bengals and light it up.
I'm already occupying Cincinnati, so you got to find a different city. All right, so since it's just me and Ken as usual, when Connor's not here to suck up all the time, we are going to be talking about what we saw last week because we have more than enough time to talk. Because, like I said, Connor is not here to bloviate and just eat all the time. So, all right, my first take on this one from last week, the Dolphins. We will be talking about this when we get to our picks, but that game reminded me of breakup sex, where it was the last moment for that relationship for Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins, and they had a wonderful finale to their relationship, and they beat up on the Falcons, but it's over now. I think this week they're going to get smashed by the Ravens, and it's going to go right back to, oh my gosh, everything's going poorly for Miami.
Man, on paper, that was such a smash spot for the Falcons. Just, hey, we have this amazing running game against a team that is the worst running defense outside of Dallas. And it just absolutely never showed up. Bijan just had the absolute worst game that he's had this year, first real dud. And I think it really helped prove that Kirk Cousins is not worth whatever it is, $175 million or whatever the Falcons gave him. But man, I think you're right. I think it's over now. I think that they had a really nice bounce back after getting out of the, whatever that horrible weather storm thing was in Cleveland. They played well, but reality is going to hit them real quick. I think that was just a mirage 1 week. I think that Mike McDaniels is still in the same spot that he was, 2 weeks prior. It's, it would be the hot seat if Miami ever actually fired a coach midseason. I don't think that's their thing, but it's still just not looking good for them. Don't care how nice that week was last week.
They don't need to fire people in the middle of the season. They're enjoying their empty beaches, and their 70 degrees weather and the sunshine. They don't care what's actually happening on the football field. All right, my second note, dude, what the fudge, Bengals? And this is like Joe Flacco comes in, lights it up. I get it. Everything was looking good and hunky-dory. But for whatever reason, T. Higgins had 2 targets. The Jets were down Sauce Gardner, so it was just a mess at corner for them. T. Higgins had a 44-yard receiving touchdown, and I know I'm piling on this 1 point, but it's like Jamar Chase did what he did. They've been using him a lot in the high-volume passing game. Short passes let him create afterwards, and then they decided to lean on the run, and it was effective, but it just late in the game, it wasn't doing it, in my opinion. And then T. Higgins should be a bigger part of their offense, and also the defense, obviously. I don't care how bad your defense is. You're going against Justin Fields and the Jets without Garrett Wilson. Tyler Johnson was their starting receiver. If you don't know who he is, he made a name for himself as being maybe a guy that might be good like a couple years ago when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were both down on the Buccaneers, and he had like 1 or 2 good spot starts. Since then, he's been very little to nothing at all, and just ripped apart the Bengals. It's embarrassing. I can't believe they lost. The Bengals showed signs of hope for the, when Burrow comes back, we might be able to sneak in the playoffs and make some noise. I think they just absolutely got that all sucked out of them with a very, very deflating loss at home to one of the worst teams in the NFL.
So I feel like this just happens to Flacco all the time where he'll have a good game. Like when he was with the Colts, he's like, oh, I'm going to put up something in the 30s against the Giants that year that they sucked. And then they're like, well, the Giants are going to put up 40 and you're going to lose. And I think a bit of it is just, just the way Flacco plays where, hey, if you just can't, control the ball at the end of the game, you lose, you give it up. And he just has these high volume, high scoring games that when you can't finish out and the other team's rolling, it just can't give him the ball back. I do think he did injure his shoulder. I'm really interested to see. I haven't seen any specifics on the injury yet, but is it something that's going to affect him going into this week? He mentioned that it was hurting him, was ailing him during those last couple drives. But either way, just don't give up 2 touchdowns to the New York Jets in the last quarter of the game.
Yeah, 23 points or something like that in the last quarter. Completely ridiculous. And to your point, I mean, he still threw some nice balls, but he was throwing them to Andre Yoshivas on the last drive. And one of their tight ends, I think. It's like you got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Give them a chance to make a play for your team. So very, very just disappointed in however they came to the conclusion to run those plays. I still am likely to blame Zach Taylor more than I am to blame Joe Flacco. I think we have made it very, very clear here. While we do love Joe Burrow and all the passing weapons and what they have, we are just can't stand Zach Taylor. I think he has been a major impediment on how good this team can be. All right, let's go over to the next point. Nah, I haven't marked down as just Eagles and Bills did Eagles and Bills things. I don't think there's much to say besides like, hey, they showed up and they reminded everyone like we have a lot of talented football players and we are good at what we do. They hadn't shown too much of that in recent weeks where they were either barely beating teams or in the Bills' case, they were losing to teams. So they came out and absolutely asserted their just, physical dominance over the opponents. That was the Jets and the Giants and the Panthers.
I think a huge part of both their games is, if we can establish the run, everything else looks good. And they completely did that. I mean, James Cook, I think he had over 200 yards. I don't know how many he had in the first half, but I think it was over 150. And then Saquon was just like, hey, I'm doing all these awesome things till I pull my groin. So I think that is just one of the huge things that keeps those offenses reeling. And got to tell you, the script's in because love how the Bills just look amazing going into their regular season game of the year.
All right. So I know you gave me crap for writing this down before we got on, but I put how the hell did the Bears not cover? And this is more like covering is one thing, right? It was a 6.5 point spread, but you're doing it against Tyler Huntley. You're on a 4-game winning streak. Derrick Henry doesn't even have a dominant game against you. He has 70 yards and 2 touchdowns, but they were 1-yard touchdown runs. Like anyone running back could have gotten those. But just watching, like Zay Flowers cut him up. Rashad Bateman had a couple big plays, and then Caleb Williams in your offense was humiliated by what is statistically one of the worst defenses. I know they got some punch back with Marlon Humphrey and Roquan Smith coming back, but I think they haven't played particularly well, even with those players. So I am just extremely embarrassed for the Bears, who were showing signs of life and putting up points against good teams. And now all of a sudden, like back to the drawing board and discussion of Caleb Williams. Like, is he an actual NFL reliable quarterback? We know he can make I'm going to spin 3 times, throw the ball 100 yards, and someone's going to be there to catch it like he did late in the game to DJ Moore for a huge chunk play. But then you have the routine play that he missed a couple, like I think 2 or 3 plays after that, where Moore standing open in the back of the end zone, and it's like Charlie Sheen in Major League, that just a bit outside, and it's hitting the back of the ball.
So you bet against a Harbaugh coming off of a bye week, and you're wondering why you didn't win. So, I mean, their defense has been, historically bad, but it's getting a little better, but more so just with time. Like the Ravens, they're just a good team. Like they figure out stuff like that, and if everybody in their division continues to just not want to win, they can definitely sneak out a playoff, a berth wild card, or even like a division win if, everyone else just lets them like hang out and they're like, cool. If an 8-9 or a 9-8 team's going to, make it from this division, why not us? Because that's just what they do.
Yeah, they are very fortunate now that my very next point is going to be, hey, I thought the Packers sucked for 3 quarters and then popped off and just took care of business with 21 fourth quarter points against the Steelers. But that is also to emphasize that I thought the Steelers weren't good in that game either. I thought the Packers left a lot on the table in the first 3 quarters of opportunities, and I thought the Steelers, they look exactly like what you would think of as a Steelers team. 4th and short, settling for a 55-yard field goal. They're not going for it. They're not trying to put up points. They're kicking. Chris Boswell being a fantastic fantasy kicker, and it doesn't look like they're playing to win. It looks like they're playing to play classic football, run the ball, rely on their defense. And at the end of the day, their defense has not been that good. Rolling that back to the Packers, man, Connor and I said it last week. We ain't buying 5-1-1, top of the NFC. People are starting to get back on them like, hey, they're getting these explosive plays. They're doing this and that. And it's like Matt LaFleur, man, he can coach these tight games and pull out a couple plays here and there, but when other teams come out and they hit him in the face the way the Lions did a few weeks ago and just start running up the score, or maybe I guess that was last year. I can't remember. Like the Cowboys is one. I don't know. I'm just not buying into the Packers, and I am more so not buying into the Steelers. And finally, wrapping it up to what you led off that conversation with is, yeah, the Ravens have the door wide open to go on a big run with a crappy schedule and crap in front of them in the division to just go through, blow off, and take off and win the AFC North.
So I don't think this should even be a hot take or even a mild take at this point, but the Steelers defense is just not good. They, they used to have this intensity where you're just like, you can't run against them. They're mean. They hit you hard, It's just not there. And TJ Watt is not having the year that everyone thought he would after he got paid. I was watching game at the beginning, and you know how they do like the PFF grade or whatever at the bottom when they're doing the intros, and he was like 17 or 18 at the like defensive ends, and it's like, no, this is a guy who's supposed to be like top 3, and everything like they've given up 30 points 4 times this year. So the fact that their record's even as good as it is now is pretty crazy. The only real good game they've had was against the Patriots, and Drake May's only like real like down game before he really started hitting it off. But man, I think Aaron Rodgers is doing what he's supposed to there, believe it or not. I don't think it's on him. I think it's just, this is a team that was like regularly giving up less than 20 points a game to opponents, and it's just not there. This isn't that classic Steelers defense that we've been accustomed to seeing over the last, pretty much forever, but really over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I think your point on Aaron Rodgers is a good one, because it's like, why isn't their offense clicking? Why isn't it turning 3 points into 7? Just by making better, efficient passing plays. But when you look at their receiving core, realistically, their best like passing set is 4 tight ends and Jalen Warren. And I only say 4 tight ends because DK Metcalf is a monster human. He's just a really, really fast tight end. But it's like Darnell Washington, huge person, Pat Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith. It's like, that's what they're most comfortable running out there. Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson, like they're nice little gadget speedy guys, but I don't think they're reliable heavy volume receivers. And there's just not much to what they have. So I'm with you that it's like, what could you want from Aaron Rodgers? He doesn't have his separator like he had in Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams in previous years.
At the beginning of the year, we talked about this, and I was like, listen, DK Metcalf is not a separator. We've talked about this so much on the show. Big, fast, does not have one-cut speed. Or not one-cut agility, I guess. But I was like, Aaron Rodgers does not need that much space to throw. He can throw somebody open. He can get in these small spots. And then you see like DK Metcalf like kind of catch something, and some cornerback just rip it out of his arms for a pick. And he's like, I've seen it like multiple times, I think 3 times in the last 2 weeks. So no, it turns out that he just gets such little separation. And I think you sent me a chart or of how much separation that all these receivers are getting. And there's DK Metcalf all the way at the end. He's a complete negative like separator. And it's like, okay.
People are literally on his back, but he's just so big and physical that he catches the ball. I remember that chart. It's like he's in the top left. It's like the worst place to be. It's like, I have way too many yards for how little I separate. It's like, okay, no, but it makes sense. Anyways, all right, 2 more points before we get into our picks. This is my favorite one. Everyone knows anti-Bo Nix crew here. Like this, you can't not play football for 3 quarters and hope to win regularly. And he has been doing it and getting away with it, and it drives us crazy. But the Cowboys made it very, very clear. Their defense is so bad that they will make Bo Nix a 4-quarter quarterback. Absolutely went in, lit up the Cowboys D. And I was on that game, obviously, both the Cowboys and Broncos hater. It was very hard just to pick one, can't pick them both to lose. But I was actually I don't know if I was impressed by what Bo Nix did, or if it was just, we saw the Cowboys flip their defense 2 weeks ago to a more man-based scheme to favor their personnel. And what ended up happening is, after 1 week, the offenses adapted, especially Sean Payton, who knows how to play against that, and immediately took advantage and was like, yeah, the Cowboys players aren't good. It doesn't matter if you change scheme. You fooled one person. Now we're back to, you guys don't have the talent to really compete.
I completely agree. I really just love the fact that the Cowboys defense they're going to be in 70-point games, and that's just what they do. And I mean, they've made a lot of bad offenses look really good. And the Cardinals might be another one this week.
All right. And then my last point, we'll see if you have anything else in addition to this. This is just simple. I threw it on here. Commanders should have lost that game by 50. Man, they got so lucky. Patrick Mahomes threw 2 picks on like their first two of their first 3 drives, moving in Commander territory. So I don't know if they got stopped at the 1. I think maybe the Commanders got stopped at the 1. Either way, like there should have been 2 more early touchdowns in addition to what the Chiefs had ended up doing, which was a 28-7 blowout, comfortable win. So love the Commanders, but they're starting to look more and more like one of those teams that hyped up coming into the year, coming off a strong year, and injuries have just derailed them, and it just hasn't been the same, and they aren't meeting the expectations that were set.
I think it's just a classic, like, hey, Commanders didn't have Jaden Daniels. He wasn't 100%. I don't think he's someone who should be playing if he's not 100%. I think that Marcus Mariota actually did pretty good there for a first half, except for turnovers. And you can't do that against the Chiefs. And guess what? You're right. The Chiefs spotted him a few with those turnovers at the beginning of the half, or the game going into the half. It was 7-7 going in, I believe. And it's like, cool. It's just a matter of time. Just wait for it. And I think I texting you or another group where I'm like, this is over. Like you can't, you can't play that. Pat Mahomes can't do that poor for like a half, and you only be tied going into the halftime break. You have to be. You really got to put him down, or else he's just going to come back in there. It was 6 minutes into the second half, and they were up 21-7. You're like, well, that's it. They're not going to score 2 touchdowns.
Yep, exactly. All right, so that's all my points and notes from last week. What do you have anything to add, or are we just going to go straight into making our picks?
I was going off of what you got. I think you hit it.
Yeah, we did not talk about the Browns. And do you know why? And there's a very good reason. They're not playing this week. And if you listen or are on Facebook, I'm guessing you've seen everyone just do the Shador calls left and right because it's way too much.
I don't care
for me. Yeah, it drives me crazy. I'm just like the media post about it.
Well, one thing just in the injury wrap up, the one that's just hard to see, man. Cam Scatterboot, that guy, man, he brought the intensity. He brought that whole team up. I've never seen a rookie be such an offensive leader after, only being a starter for a couple of weeks. But man, he really brought it. He brought the intensity. And, that was the first game. Somebody blitzed and he got lit up, pass blocking. The guy didn't get the sack, but he laid Cam out. And then that was the very first time that he looked not like a superhero out there. And then, oh man, when you hear dislocated ankle, what you should hear is multiple fracture and multiple tendon ruptures, and really just a difficult thing to come back from. So severity, his looked more on the edge, like on line of what Dak Prescott had. Now, Dak ended up coming back that year, but at the start of next year, for him, it's looking like that. This is like a 1.5 year type injury, and that's if he comes back at like the earlier time.
So you're saying Giants got to make the playoffs next year to see some real Scatterboot.
And without Cam Scatterboot, it's possible, right?
Yeah, Jackson Dart's going to take over and just start being the bell cow running back and running people's faces off, and then he'll pop his ankle right after. All right, so with that, we are going to get into our picks. We are going to do something new. Due to poor performance recently, we have decided that we are going to have a true "we called it" section where we got to agree as whoever's on the show and talking on the picks. We will have 3 picks like this each week, and the hope is that these will perform better due to poor performance, right? So I don't want the classic, beatings will continue until what's it called? Performance improves or morale improves. There you go. So with that, Thursday Night Football, the very first one. Man, I think this is such an easy pick. Lamar is going to come back after being hyped to come back last week. And we just said the Dolphins are not who they showed to be. They got lucky against the Falcons the Falcons got gutted late in the week by losing Drake London on Friday and then also not having Michael Penix. I think after him being 50-50 to play, losing London Obviously, I know Kirk Cousins may have played better if they had their number one option, but once you lose him, Darnell Mooney is not a number one receiving threat. And after Mooney, like, they have practice squad guys out there. So just all in all, a complete gut to the passing game, which allowed Miami to focus on the run. And I think Derrick Henry, with Lamar next to him, has the threat to throw. And we could see Miami's defense, fold back into what is the most embarrassing run defense, and give people, guys like Kamani Vidal, 120 plus yard games. I'm all in on Derrick Henry big game. Ravens showing out. And I forgot, I have my screen. I will share it so that everyone can see the great matchup stats that we provide.
Yeah, I completely agree. I do not want everyone to forget that just because the Dolphins had one good game against the run does not mean that their defense is turning anything around this year. I think that especially with just dual running threat of Lamar and Derrick Henry, the RPO that the Ravens run. Sorry, Kirk Cousins, you had a great career. You cannot run any type of RPO. You just can't. And there's no threat of him running the ball. And you just will see an entirely different level. I think that with Lamar Jackson coming back, now, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are very infamous for waiting an extra week out and then having Lamar Jackson come back actually at 100%. I think they know that it's just so crucial that he has that running threat as a quarterback. I compare it to when, Mahomes had the high ankle sprain and he played in the AFC Championship 1 week later and looked okay. And he actually ran a little bit. But you're not going to see that from Lamar. You just have to, he has to be able to run 100% fast. He has to have that threat there. He definitely has it now. And he's going to come back at 100%. And this offense is going to be screaming. I do think that the Dolphins do have a decent, offense when it is clicking. Obviously missing like Tyreek Hill still, but Jalen Waddles looked really good when Tua can see him. But I think that they might be able to score some, but they're just not going to be able to keep up for this whole game. I think this Ravens team just gets out screaming, runs all over them, and it'll be one of these teams will be fun to watch on a Thursday night.
It's a good thing basketball's on, so once this game turns into a blowout, you can switch it. All right, going into our next pick, we both have San Francisco -2.5 at home. Giants traveling to the Bay Area. So why don't you go first on this one? Why do you like San Fran?
So this one has more to do with its injuries. Both of these teams are completely dismantled by injuries. I know the 49ers just traded for a D lineman from the Patriots, but they're still reeling from that Fred Warner injury. But on the other side, the Giants are missing a tackle. They're missing, of course, Malik Neighbors. And then I don't think that there's a replacement for Cam Scatterby for just the intensity that he brings. I know just a running back, and I do like Tyrone Tracy, but he just brought a whole extra level to this team. I think that you're asking Jackson Dart to do a whole lot. And I think that this is more of a Robert Saleh is not going to lose to a team that is just, or to a rookie quarterback that's just not going to be able to move the ball. I think that one's it. Now, the 49ers offense still has a lot of, injuries. You don't know. I don't know if Ricky Pearsall is coming back. Brock Purdy, I keep hearing every week he's supposed to come back, but their offense might be a little bit slow with like the, addition, subtraction, kind of getting back into the swing of things. But I like Christian McCaffrey as George Kittle gets healthier, Juwan Jennings getting healthier. Like this team's starting to shape up a little bit. Their injury depth isn't as bad on the offensive side. And I just don't think the injuries on defensive side are going to matter in this one. I think that they'll win by at least a field goal.
So this is fun. Things I didn't know due to the stat sheet, though. 49ers, dead last in rush yards per attempt. Terrible, right? But you got Christian McCaffrey, right? You got hope to turn it around. Teams are focusing your running game. Guess what? The Giants are dead last in rush yards per attempt allowed. This is a terrible matchup for them because the 49ers are going to want to come out, stick it to the run, and just absolutely get set that way. If the Giants don't stop the run, or if they have to commit extra resources, then the Niners passing attack will be able to come out and, supplement that running game to torture the Giants defense. In addition, I liked exactly what you said, like the Robert Saleh schemed defense against a just like maligned Giants offense where Jackson Dart can play. I think you and I like him a lot. Wish he was a Brown, but without Scadaboo to, anchor that run game, Tyrone Tracy, I think he can play football, but he just puts the ball on the ground way too much. A fumble or two would be absolutely devastating when it's a 2.5-point line. So I just think the 49ers have come out and they have absolutely played classic, good hard-nosed football and come up with upsets against teams they shouldn't have, like the Rams. And I think they come out and they're just too good and complete a football team for the Giants to take over and win this one. 2.5 is very close to just money line. So that's why I like sticking with San Fran on this one. All right. And heading over to our last game, you and I off a bye, we are taking the Seahawks -3.5 at home against Washington. Talked about this slightly in the previous section, but just, man, I like the Commanders. I wish they were more. Marcus Mariota had a beautiful dime to Terry McLaurin to score their only touchdown against the Chiefs, or maybe it was their second. I don't know. It was so late in the game, I can't remember. But I am just not buying into what they're doing. The Seahawks defense is playing hard. They play fast. They're physical. They got good talent everywhere, and they have a bye. They're off a bye. Do and have extra game planning for the Commanders. You mentioned, I think, if not, you're going to. We talked about it pre-show. Jaden Daniels is not a guy who can come in off a short turnaround on a hamstring. Because just due to his need for the mobility, and that's what really changes the Commanders' offense. If he can't move, it's going to be a problem. I don't think the gimmicky fake screens and things like that are going to fool the Seahawks. And then on offense, Sam Darnold, man, PFF's number 1 or top 3 quarterback, going to continue to do what he does, and that is throw the ball to JSN over and over and over again. Marshawn Lattimore can't stop him. I don't care they can't run the ball because JSN has just been such a freak. So Seahawks come out, dominate this one. 3.5 at home is easy for them to cover.
Yeah, I mean, a few things. Ironically, the only thing that's really not going the Seahawks' way on paper is that they're at home. They're actually a better road team than they are at home for whatever reason, but it doesn't matter. I think a few things. Number one, the Commanders have looked rough if they cannot run the ball. Jaden Daniels, if he does play, so this is his second week coming off of a hamstring injury. If he was a running back or wide receiver, I'd say nope, he's probably not playing. Quarterbacks, they have that chance, but you will see limitation. There's higher risk of re-injury, especially after missing some time already this season. I don't think that they rush him back. I think that if he is back, he is going to be limited. And Marcus Mariota, anytime it's his second game back, after, you see what he's done recently, it's a lot easier to game plan against him. But if you stop the run for the Commanders, they just cannot get it going with the passing. I love Deebo Samuel. I love Terry McLaurin. By the way, Terry McLaurin came up limp on one of those, or on a route at the end of the game. It looked like he had a hamstring injury of himself. Too much of that going around. But this defense for the Seattle Seahawks is scary. It is a top 3 defense. I think Seahawks, probably Houston Texans, and I'm biased, but Cleveland Browns, I think those are the 3 best defenses in the league. I think that this one, they're definitely going to stop the rush. They're going to tell or put Marcus Mariota in a position where they're going to be like, okay, try to beat us, and it's just not going to go well. Their passing offense, like you said, has looked great. The Commanders, there's been no secret to it. It's, hey, you can pass on this team. And it just shows up good on paper. I just don't think that 3.5 is a big enough number. I think that once you get some clarity from Jaden Daniels, I think it's going to go up. So get it now.
All right. So that covers the We Called It section. There you go. Let's have great branding, working our name into the show. Section, the top 3 picks: Baltimore -7.5, San Fran -2.5, and Seattle -3.5. For the record, favorites were like 12-2 last week or something crazy. And you get the stupid media people coming out. Blowouts are a problem. It's like, it's not every week, guys. That was an extreme week. But again, I think these teams just are way better than they're getting credit for right now. All right, so now we can move on to our other picks. I'm going first because I really like this one. Houston plus 1.5 going into Denver. Is that really it? Here we go. So, yeah, again, I told you guys, I don't like Bo Nix. Like every week I look at the list and I think I'm not going to bet the Broncos. I'm going to bet against them. And here we are. I get the opportunity to do it once again. The problem is Bo Nix doesn't look like a quarterback for 3/4 of the game, and he'll show up in the fourth quarter and play well. The Texans defense, though, is fantastic. Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, absolute monsters getting the quarterback. I think they were both like top 10 PFF grades and big pressure leaders, big sack leaders. So I think they come out, absolutely cause a problem for any of the Broncos passing attack. And then in terms of the Broncos running the ball, if you ever watch the Texans play defense, they fly all over the field and they make everyone miserable when they play them. Number 1 EPA per play against. So I think the defense comes out and stops them. Offensively, big loss for Denver. Pat Surtain is out for a few weeks. So that means matching up with Nico Collins will be a problem for Denver. Their hope is going to be to get to CJ Stroud, but I'm really hoping Houston can figure that out a little bit, where you're going to have either Nico in a giant mismatch, or your second and third guys are going to need extra attention because you're going to now have guys coming off the bench to cover them. I just think it's too much, and I think time for some reversal in the year where we see teams that played well and lost games, like the Texans, right? Bad loss against the Buccaneers. I can't even remember the other ones off the top of my head, but they are way underperforming. Their record is way underperforming their stats, and the Broncos are overperforming their stats. I think we get a flip here, and the Texans go on the road, get the win, but you get 1.5 with the spread.
Well, I agree with a lot of stuff you said, especially from the defense part. I just don't know what this Texans offense looks like. I mean, it is just ugly to watch. Sometimes CJ Stroud looks really good, and a lot of times he just looks rough. Even with Nico Collins in there. Now he's come back from a concussion. This happened, 2 weeks prior. He should be back. I saw it, with the concussion protocol, it's very easy to tell, like, if they're trending towards or not playing. So he should be good there. But honestly, he hasn't made a huge difference for this team. I know he's a great player, but their offense hasn't looked like itself. Unfortunately, I think that they're missing, the thing they're missing the most is Joe Mixon, of all things. Definitely better offensive line play coming out of a bye can help that. I know that was 2 weeks ago, but still. I like the under more for this game, just because I think these are two strong defenses. I think the Broncos can beat up their offense can beat up a bad defense. I don't think they're going to show up well against this. And when the Texans played Seattle, you actually saw that their defense really kept them in that game and actually gave them like a shot at the end, even though their offense was, anemic, to put it gently.
Yeah, you say the under, and it sounds like it makes way more sense than what I said. But I'm here. I already spoke about Houston plus 1.5, so that is enough. All right. Here's one I put on this line seems wrong, but I'm not taking it. I'm letting you have this one alone. Panthers plus 12.5 in Green Bay. I talked about hating the Packers earlier, so why don't you tell us why you like the Panthers, or why you hate the Packers?
I don't hate the Packers.
You don't like the Packers in this matchup. How about that? There you go.
I don't like the Packers minus 12.5. 12.5 is a ridiculous amount, and the Panthers have just come to play several times this year. the question is, which Panthers are we getting? And we now know pretty certainly that the Andy Dalton version is not the one that we want to chase. Now, also, please, everyone that works for the Carolina Panthers, please, 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 free Rico Dowdle. That man is just so much better than Chuba Hubbard. Now, Chuba's done a lot. I do not dislike him. I think he is a good running back. But man, your team looked way, way different, way, way better, way, way more explosive, way, way more dangerous with Rico Dowdle carrying the ball. Just give him the ball. Like, I'm just saying, like a 2-to-1 carry. You know, your 50-50 splits, they're just not cutting it. You know, even if you have to pass, you know what? Just run the ball to Rico. Just as good a chance at getting a breakaway, big play. But I do think that Bryce Young comes back from this. He had a high ankle sprain, which talked about before. It seemed like the more mild version. And with that, he should be okay with only like very small limitations on mobility. Not that Bryce Young's the most mobile guy in the world either way, but I think that does come back. Their defense, I think that I gotta tell you, it's interesting to see like the yards per pass first, rushing yards per attempt fourth, and then the EPA per play for the Packers 21st. That's a real interesting stat there if you want to touch base on it. But I do think that their dominance is definitely like overrated. I mean, this isn't just because their only loss comes against the Cleveland Browns. It just more so they seem to be a team that more so plays with their food than to absolutely goes out and dominates them. But a little bit more faith in the Panthers, and it's really just playing this line. 12.5 is just way too large of a number.
Yeah, I'd be really interested in how this EPA per play stuff is working out. I'm not going to lie. It's got to be like the Cowboys blowing them out or something. Or teams just like letting themselves down after getting some production. Weird, but the points per drive allowed, right? 15th is a more straightforward measure, and it still doesn't match up with like, hey, we're stopping teams regularly, and it could be just like due to their offense giving more opportunities the other way. I don't know. Stuff that I'd love to dig into if I had more time. The numbers are correct, though. I did just look them up.
That's crazy. Hey, that's funny. The one thing that didn't even pop in my head is, hey, maybe these numbers are wrong.
Don't blame ChatGPT, all right?
No.
Anyways, Panthers, they broke my heart last week. I had two bets. I had Tet McMillan, 110 plus yards, and Jalen Coker, 50 plus yards. Tet, I think they were both at those numbers like halfway through the third quarter. And Tet ended up with 99. Jalen Coker ended up with 36. And it's like they didn't get any more passes because the Bills bled the clock so much. They got the ball back once and it was a 3-and-out and a punt. I'm like, come on, guys. Like, it's garbage time. That's when you're supposed to get some BS passes. 11 and 14 more yards. I would have been real happy. I wasn't, though. All right. That's Ken's pick. Let's head over to mine. We talked about this a little bit. Chiefs at the Bills. Now, the Bills just are coming off absolute dominating performance over the Panthers, and the Chiefs are coming off a dominating performance against the Commanders. I think the simplest way to put this is every year what we have seen is the Chiefs have a good record, and the Bills are playing catch up to get to that top seed or to like lock in a better seed for the playoffs, competing with the Ravens or some other team with a ridiculous amount of wins. This year, the Chiefs are fighting for a division title, and they have just got their arsenal of weapons back, and they are looking 100% absolutely legitimate whenever they throw the ball. When they run the ball, they look terrible. Like, that's just the bottom line. Kareem Hunt is the most explosive thing they got, and I've seen holes, man, like against the Commanders. They should have been 40, 50-yard carries, and there's Isaiah Pacheco getting 3. Getting 4, and Kareem Hunt getting 15. Like, it's just not great. There's not burst there.
Have you ever seen a runner that looks so fast like Isaiah Pacheco yet doesn't have breakaway speed? It's the weirdest thing. Like, his feet are moving so fast and he hits stuff hard. You never see him actually like break off anything. And I know he has a good 40. I know he supposedly has that breakaway speed, but I never, ever see it from him.
It's his 0 to 8 is one of the best in this league. He just can't get up past 10, miles an hour.
I don't know
Anyways,
what it is, but
my last thing is the defense for the Chiefs. I think in prior years it was definitely it wasn't their stronger side, but they had a lot of great personnel, and they just haven't been able to afford to pay them. So they've just slowly eked out one by one. L'Jarius Sneed left, Travarius Ward left, and now they're left with a bunch of aging good players and Trent McDuffie. And it's not bad. It's a well-schemed defense. It doesn't have that same pop, though. But to be honest, the Bills' offense, you said it earlier, if they aren't allowed to run down your throat, can they be a high-powered, monster offense? This year, it's not looking like it. So I am just sitting back on that and just buying into what the Chiefs offer more than the Bills.
well, Phil, I think you're not looking at it from a big picture. The Chiefs beat the Ravens. The Ravens or the Bills beat the Ravens. So now these guys are playing for the number 1 seed. That's how this goes, right? But
They all make sense to me.
But it's the Chiefs Bills during the regular season. This is, whatever these teams have done throughout the year, just throw it out. They've had this game on the calendar pretty much all year. Sorry.
Ken has a disease at the moment. I'm doing my best to edit out his coughing. If you hear it, I'm sorry. We appreciate him playing through, illness to show up.
This is my flu game, that's for sure. But both these teams, they've always been able to score quick. They're going to score, well, kind of going back to like that Bills-Ravens game where they just put up a bunch of points. I think that's what's going to happen here. I think that it's just going to go over this 52. I don't know. I'm thinking like one of those like 30 to 27 games because that's just what these two teams do. We'll see. If it was in the playoffs, I'm definitely picking KC -1.5. They definitely look like the better team right now. But I definitely think that it's just going to be one of those, even if they've only scored a total of 30 points going into the fourth quarter, I'm like, well, this is a lock. Both these teams are going to score 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter because that's just how these games go.
All right. Let's go on to your last pick then. Colts at the Steelers. We make these picks. It's Tuesday. You and I are both busy people. Sometimes I see something and I get jealous that I didn't see it, right? This one slid underneath my radar because I don't think the Steelers are good. I'm letting you have it stand alone. So tell me, why do you like the Colts so much?
So, number one, picking against Mike Tomlin at home and getting 3 points is kind of scary. But like I was saying way at the beginning, this is not the same Steelers team. They do not have a good defense. Don't look at these numbers that Phil's putting up. This 19,
They're below
17,
average.
Now, number one, they're not up to what the Steelers think they are, but if there's also not up to what we think the Steelers are. I still think that people really think this is a good defense, and it's just not. And they've played some pretty bad teams that have scored a lot of points on them. The Bengals are putting up 30. The Jets put up 30, which is just, I guess, what they do on bad defenses. But this is a bad defense that cannot do well against the run. And the Colts and Jonathan Taylor are going to run all over them because that's just what they do with this offense. By the way, I love their weapons, but I know we talked about this at the beginning of the year, but Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Tyler Warren, Jonathan Taylor, like those are some pretty nice, names and pretty nice things to throw to in the passing game. Throw in Alec Pierce is just like, hey, I do one thing really well. I think that this team is just dangerous in general. And Joey Porter Jr. has not been doing well this year. I think he's been in and out of the lineup with injuries. I have no idea what's going on with TJ Watt, but he's looking a whole lot more normal and human than, Myles Garrett like. So I think that this defense is just not going to be able to keep up with the Colts because nobody has. And I don't know how many weeks we're going to go with just fading this Colts team. We're not getting enough respect in the lines that they should be. What was it, just 2 weeks ago, they were underdogs against the Chargers, and they just keep proving, hey, they're just going to keep winning. And you know what? I think at the very worst, they win by 3 and it's a push. I think that this line's probably going to go up. You should get the Colts now. I just think that this is just a whole mismatch.
It's just one of those things. Like, I go to bet him, and then I'm like, Daniel Jones is the quarterback. Like, at some point, he's got to show up instead of Superman. So, like, it's just so hard every time I think about the Colts and betting on them. But again, to your point, it's like, yeah, but they get to play the Steelers, who I don't think are good. So
real quick, I saw this stat today. Drove me nuts. How many touchdowns does Jonathan Taylor have this year in week 8?
100.
He has 14 rushing, or he has 14 total touchdowns.
That's crazy.
Do you know how many Saquon had last year?
No.
15 in the whole year.
That is completely insane.
Absolutely nuts. I mean, that's the one thing with Daniel Jones. MVP is a quarterback stat or quarterback
award.
But
man, that disease is getting to you.
It's getting late. But man, I don't think he has a chance to win it. I think it's just Jonathan Taylor or nothing if the Colts just keep on doing this thing. Or if he does good enough, they'll just give it to Pat Mahomes anyways.
All right. So we talked about a couple things, not many. You know why? Because we agreed on too much on the picks this week. So we have a lot of games marked with my discuss question mark on our spreadsheet. So we can flip through these. I don't care if we spend enough any time or none at all on a lot of them. Number 1, Falcons at Patriots. Like this one, I think there's just injury questions about it. And who's going to be playing for the Falcons just has me staying away from it. I think the Patriots are currently a little bit overrated. I don't think they looked great against the Browns until they had 55 opportunities on offense, and they were able to finally start scoring after so many failed opportunities. Like, great teams don't give up 5 sacks, even if it is to Myles Garrett. So just not all in on the Patriots. However, I can't buy anything of the Falcons, especially on the road. So 5.5, it's just too black boxy to me. I'm scared.
So yeah, Drake London, he was a late scratch from the lineup, which is not good for the next week. Really, I didn't think there'd be that much of a difference between Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins, but Phil really hates the Patriots. He is not accepting that Drake May is looking good.
Whoa. I love Drake May. I thought he should be the number 2 quarterback ahead of Jaden Daniels previously. Don't use trash Drake May to me. It is, I don't like their insistence on giving the ball to Ramondre 1,500 times a game. I'm not the biggest fan of their weapons, and I think their defense is playing above its caliber at the moment. So there you go. That's all. That's it. Also, they've had a pretty soft schedule.
They have, but that's a Vrabel defense, and I don't hate watching them. I think that okay. Besides Ramondre, I got to tell you, man,
dude, it ruins so much when it's like Ramondre's the problem, but he's like half of the offense.
I used to like watching, but it's just these big guys that like have some explosion that like they just take enough hits and all of a sudden they're just volume, plotters. And unfortunately, that's where it's going. Man, coming from the Ohio State homer, but man, I just want to see Travion Henderson out there. I guess he just can't pass block. I guess it's number one, it's predictable when he's out there because he's either going out for a pass or it has to be a run. But this Falcons team, they're doing the same. Them and the Panthers. It's like, hey, are you getting this team that can beat one of the best teams in the league, or are you getting these complete trash games? You just don't know. So definitely just a stay away.
Yeah. To your point, Travion Henderson burned me bad last week. I've bet him to get 60 plus rushing yards at like 8-1 every week. And I said, you know what? I believe in the Browns. I don't think it's going to happen this week. They're not relying on him for anything. And of course, 70 yards probably would have been a 10-1 bet that I missed an opportunity on. So heartbreak for Phil. Not that anyone cares. Moving over. Bengals at Bears. Man, preseason Phil was so excited for this game. You got Caleb Williams, who do you think is going to start showing up with weapons? You got Joe Burrow and weapons. And now we have Caleb Williams might be worse than Joe Flacco at the moment at like routine offense. If the play breaks down, I want Caleb Williams doing the whoop-de-whoop and twirl and then throwing the Hail Mary. But then defensively, look at these numbers for these teams. Just absolutely abysmal across the board. But they are both surprisingly pretty high in turnovers. And both have turnover-prone quarterbacks. There could be hope for some excitement to this game, but I think it's one of those games where we could see like 3 turnovers by each offense and then just like complete collapses. So you don't turn those turnovers into points. You turn a pick into a reciprocal pick or a 3 and out or something like that. So after being hyped, loving all these players, loving everything about this, like these teams coming into the year, they've sucked the life out of me. And I am just, this game, if it shows up on Red Zone, cool. If not, I'm not looking into it.
So, one of the things that really bugs me about injuries, or the worst joint that to ever get hurt and me to not have any details about it, is a shoulder injury, man. If I can't see like the fall or the trauma, and then I'm not getting any news about it, and I just hear like I love the non-specific day-to-day. That's what the Bengals say for every single player. They could be out 3 weeks. They're like, hey man, they're still day-to-day. I have no idea what's going on with Joe Flacco's shoulder. Like, because it could be like a rotator cuff injury, could be an AC, separation. It could just be a muscle. Like, I have no clue. There's a lot that can go on there. And I don't know if we're getting Jake Browning in this game. The over would be interesting if I knew it was Flacco. Both of these offenses seem to, be able to do something. Both these defenses just look, the best way to describe both of them, deficient. Like, it just, looks rough out there. So could be an interesting game to watch. Could just be a bunch of, sloppy defense. But I don't know how much I trust Jake Browning if he's out there.
I just don't get how the Bears can be 4-1 in their last 5 games, and still be at home and 2.5-point underdogs to the Bengals. Like, what? This is ridiculous. But again, I can't bet it.
I was gonna say, I agree with you. I still don't want to bet the Bears. I don't know.
All right.
Like, and it's definitely one where, like, even if they win by like 20, I go, I don't feel like, oh man, I missed out, I should have bet it. I never do with the Bears. I don't know.
Yeah, they're gonna win. They're gonna win by 30. Caleb Williams will have 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. It's like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go bet him next week because this is him next week because he's gonna blow it. Anyways, Lions at Vikings. I'm so excited for this one. JJ McCarthy returns. I am not thinking that it's going to go well. I don't know what's going to happen. This could easily turn into a Lions by 100 game. But JJ McCarthy was out. He did a beautiful hurdle over Justin Jefferson.
And a dance. You forget about the dance in the first down. Yeah.
And then Carson Wentz, RIP. I thought he was the next Browns QB, but you're getting season-ending shoulder injury. Honestly, that might make him more likely to be a Browns QB next year. Him and Shador can battle it out. Anyways, the Vikings, I think, are way better than what they have shown. And I think that Brian Flores, he always, like, he's not a gimmicky coach, but he is I'm going to play aggressive defense and try to make plays. I'm not going to be the Packers where I line up and you play offense and we play defense and we see who does it better. And last week, he got burned so bad because every time he did something, Justin Herbert said, I'm ready, and counteracted it and made a big play out of it. Lions, now you're playing the Vikings in Minnesota, and they had extra time to prepare. Your offensive coordinator, I agree, like the Lions have looked just fine, just as good as they did last year, even without Ben Johnson this year. But maybe this is like a game that now a team's got 8 weeks of film on you. You're coming out. The extra time to prepare, like I said, smart defensive coordinator, good players across the board. Can they, make the Lions a little bit more uncomfortable? So road Jared Goff is always different than home Jared Goff too. and we can finally see is JJ McCarthy can this extra time that he had to, prepare be beneficial. So no bet, just excitement for I like the Vikings players too much, except for their quarterback, to not be hopeful and optimistic about a good matchup.
So it does look very, very bad when you have a backup quarterback who has been wearing the nastiest opposite throwing shoulder brace that you've ever seen in a game over the last 2 weeks. Every time he gets touched, he's just grimacing. He's just holding that shoulder. Like once again, no specifics, but like it could be some type of like shoulder like dislocation that he's just doing his best to, keep, in the same spot every play. And then you see his supposed starter with a high ankle sprain doing a little jump and a dance for a first down. It just looked pretty bad. And then immediately you're like the day after, like, yeah, he had season ending shoulder surgery. It's like, man, I get it. You were trying to protect the rookie. It just looks bad. The optics look rough. But this is a hard game to come back from for JJ McCarthy. And I mean, yeah, the 8.5 is a big number, but you just said it, it's on the road and Vikings have, looked good on defense, and it's that divisional game just could be interesting. But man, JJ McCarthy really has to show something because right now it just looks a little rough.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too for the Vikings is going to be the Lions DBs is a who's who of who's on the IR, right? Just a giant list of IR if you were to look at it in terms of like just the players roster. So Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, like there is hope that these guys can, win regularly. I think the Lions last time we saw them, their corners showed up and showed out pretty well against good receivers in Tampa Bay. But I think Kevin O'Connell comes out and is ready and, gives his receivers opportunities. We will just see if JJ McCarthy can connect. All right, next up, 2 games. There's 3 games left, kind of. We have Titans at Chargers. Here we go. All right. So Titans are terrible. Chargers are really good at football. Line is 9.5. Why are we not on the Chargers?
It's just a
I don't
numbers
know.
thing. This Chargers defense, by the way, getting Khalil Mack back last week looked like a way different team. But I just don't know if the Titans are, gonna show up and might squeak in, a backdoor score at the end. It's just rough because the Chargers, they just haven't been. I mean, yes, they had a real dominant game against the Vikings last week, but I just don't think they've been that great to get almost a double digit point differential. That's all it is. Just the
Yeah,
numbers.
so prior to the Vikings game, obviously no one's going to question the dominance they had. The Chargers were 1-3 in their prior 4 games, with losses to the Giants, a blowout loss to the Commanders, blowout loss to the Colts, and there was a 2-point victory against Miami. It's like this team, which version of it is showing up? Is the big question for me. So they could I could easily see them another 50-0 win against the Titans, or I could see it like, dude, how are the Chargers losing this game halfway through and they come back and win or something like that? So staying away, I don't think there's much to say about either of these teams at the moment, though, just in terms of the matchup. Here's another one that I don't think there's much to say. Raiders at Jags. Man, Raiders, I know they're coming off a bye. I think Jags are too. But I think the Jags are an okay football team and the Raiders are a bad football team. Is this really Raiders -3? Did I
No,
put
it's
that
flipped.
incorrect?
It's Jags -3.
Okay, my bad. Anyways, so Jaguars -3 at home. That seems low to me, but I'm not taking it because Trevor Lawrence can easily throw you out of games. Like that's just it.
Yeah, I mean the Jags defense. I mean they've had a lot of turnovers, but besides that, I don't think they've looked that great. And especially the last couple games, they got roughed up pretty bad in London. Was it 2 weeks ago? But also, haven't seen anything on like Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know. He had a shoulder injury and he left. Just not sure. where he's at there. I just think this could just be like an ugly game. This could be like a bounce back game where Geno Smith doesn't have a turnover for some reason. Brock Bowers is coming back, but it's just going to be an ugly game. It's not I'm excited to watch. This could be a decent like litmus test for, hey, Jags, you got to win this one if you want to be a playoff contender. It's coming off a bye against the Raiders. This should be, like the gimme win on the schedule. But you're the Jags, so who knows if you're going to do it or not.
Beat the Chiefs, lose to the Raiders. Honestly, that sounds like the Jags. And wrapping it up, we have Cardinals at Cowboys. Cowboys -3. This one is just questionable to me. I believe Cardinals are coming off a bye. They just cut Michael Carter. Kyler Murray is...
Oh, I didn't see it. They cut
know.
Michael Carter? That's so funny. Wow.
Yeah. So they cut Michael Carter after he got promoted or was the lead back for a little bit. I don't know what's happening with the Cardinals ever. And the Cowboys, like, man, I can't buy anything they do ever. That's the bottom line. Sometimes, like, I could see him putting up 40, 50 in this game, but then letting Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride match them. So I want to buy it. I just don't. There's maybe this will be a good game to turn on, I think, due to some nice highlight plays, but I'm mostly staying away.
Last like 4 or 5. So they lost to the Packers by 4. They lost to the Colts by 4. Both those teams have only one loss. They lost to the Titans, with somehow lost, even though they're up 21-6 in the fourth quarter, by 1. They lost to the Seahawks, which we said we both like, by 3. And then they lost to the 49ers by 1. So they've played, honestly, some of the best teams in the NFL right now, records-wise, and just by who we think's good with the Seahawks, by 4 points or less. I don't know how you can confidently put in that the Cowboys are going to beat them by 3. And I was like dead set. I'm like, good. I'm going to put this as an over because the Cardinals will keep it close and the Cowboys are just going to score because that's what they do. And then I saw it was 53.5. And I was like, holy cow, that is a large number. And the Cowboys have just been going over. That's been a pretty baseline number for them. But I can't do it. I mean, 53, like saying that Kyler Murray's going to score on an offense is just a very hard statement to make right now. If Jacoby Brissett was the starter, I'd say yeah. But I just don't know.
As depressing as that is, I would agree. All right. Last game. Sorry it wasn't listed. I don't think either of us would take it anyway. Rams at Saints. Rams -14.5. Tyler Show. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Shuck.
Is coming in to start for the Saints. Rams are coming off a bye. I think Puka will be back. Like, I think, again, this is a game that screams Rams should cover. But Kellen Moore has just done such a good job coaching the Saints to be, like, competitive that I think he can continue to do that. And I think the Rams, again, they definitely get complacent when they have a lead. They start running the ball, playing conservatively, and not really caring, just, starting to get ready for the plane ride home. So not much else for me on this one. Just always like to say week after week, congrats, Kellen Moore. You do not deserve to lose your job. I hope New Orleans sticks with you. And Rams, I will take the Rams every week. They play a good team to outplay them and cover a small spread. Covering big ones is just not their game.
So the Saints are replacing Spencer Rattler with that Tyler Shuck.
Uh-huh.
And the thing is, now Spencer Rattler, the last 2 games has had turnovers, and he just hadn't done that the whole year, really. But besides those turnovers, the last couple of games, he really has not played bad at all. His PFF score had him in like the later teens. I think it was like he's been flirting around like 17th to 19th the league pretty much all year. And I actually thought he at times had played pretty good. So you're replacing him in the offense really because you want to know what you have with Tyler Shuck. And he's just not the QB of the future. And I just don't know if that, I mean, if anything, I think it's more detrimental to the team at this point. I don't know. This number is just ridiculous. I mean, if you wanted to take like the Saints with that, because their defense has been decent, they've just been finding ways to stick around, sure. But then if you want to go for a rookie against Sean McVay, I think you're absolutely nuts. So, yeah, definitely a good stay away. I am curious to see what that Tyler Shuck looks like, but I guess he hasn't looked very good from like preseason and even like the like early off season. Just really hasn't shown like too much. But I don't know. We'll see. Yeah,
That's because
that's
they were
all I
running
got.
Spencer Rattler's offense. Now they're going to put his offense in. It's going to solve all the problems. For the record, I did not think he looked very good in his filling in last week against the Buccaneers. 17 of 30, 128 yards and an interception. So underwhelming, but the Bucs do have, a solid defense. We will see. Rams have a very good one, so that's going to be harder to produce on. But he'll at least have the whole week to prepare. All right. So that is it. We are very consistent with our timing on these things, man. About an hour, 10 minutes on the recording side. We'll see what that trims down to. So as always, I forget to say it. Like, comment, and subscribe. We always like to hear back, get questions, and we will shout it out. And, you'll hear your name next week when we see you comment and subscribe. And of course,
Look,
the JJ
guys,
Watt rookie card
still
giveaway.
here. It might go away eventually. Who knows? But
in the words of John Bon Jovi, we are halfway there. We are at 50 subscribers out of 100.
oh, there we go.
So here we go. Recording early so we can get this out so more people can see it. That's all that really matters. All right, Ken, thanks for playing through the playing sick. Appreciate it. Since no one else could show up, and gonna rebound strong after a bad week.
Guys, hopefully AI got rid of all the coughing, and if it didn't, I'm sorry, and it probably won't ruin the quality of the show.
I'm sorry Cooper wasn't on this episode. He slept through it like a champ. See ya.